I would like first to introduce our candidates. We have candidate Nancy Adams, candidate Jermaine Cripe, and candidate Maria Herman. Our format for this evening will be as follows. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes to provide introductory material. Then there will be a series of 7 questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And then at the end, there will be closing remarks, 3 minutes per candidate. Candidates' names, just so you know how we got this format, candidates' names were first put into alphabetical order. Teachers love to do that. Then their names were put into a hat. One was drawn to determine who would go first, and candidate Cripe was chosen to be the first to go. So she will go first for the first round. Candidate Herman will go second, and candidate Adams will go third. Then, with each successive question or remark, we will rotate. Candidate Herman will then go for the next round, and so forth. And we'll rotate through. That way, all candidates will have equal opportunity to answering first, second, and third. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to have candidate Cripe have her opening remarks.
One thing, Suzanne, time.
Oh, I forgot time. Oh my goodness. We have a timekeeper. Timekeeper, would you show what you're going to be showing each of the candidates? Okay, so
Show them.
10 seconds left? Oh, everybody knows. And then you're going to be seeing that when the time is up.
Okay?
Okay, so our timekeeper is going to keep us in good timing order. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot the time. Teachers don't keep track of much time. We just like to talk a lot. Okay, so candidate Cripe, please begin. I'm so sorry for the delay.
No worries. Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you all for the invitation to participate in the Hilton Neighborhood Association's Candidates Forum. I'm happy to call the Hilton Neighborhood Association my home for these past 20 years, and I'm happy to be running with my partner and this team with the Mayor, Nancy Adams. I have learned so much from you, and I'm so grateful for your continued support and partnership through the work that lies ahead. My name is Jermaine Cripe, and I've lived in the Lightning Brook neighborhood of Hilton for 21 years. I'm the proud mom of a recent Columbia High School graduate, and I live on Jacoby Street. I have volunteered in our schools and on our community committees. I'm in my 3rd year in the Township Committee, and I currently serve as Deputy Mayor, as well as the Chair of the Public Safety and the Health and Community Services Committees. I'm the liaison for YouthNet and the Senior Advisory and Recreation Advisory Committees, and so many of our cultural and artistic offerings like Black History Month, Juneteenth, Maple Woodstock, and the Durand Hedden House. I'm running in this primary because I believe I have something unique to offer. I was brought up to believe that it is my obligation to give back, that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and that we should all do our part to defend and extend the gains made by people of color, by women, for workers, seniors, LGBTQIA+ folks, for immigrants, and for the most vulnerable among us, our neurodiverse and differently abled neighbors. I hope we get some time to talk about what the Township Committee is going to be doing and is accomplishing in those regards. To me, that means continuing my strong advocacy for even more needs-based memberships in our community pool and making sure we provide swim lessons for all children in this community, regardless of their family's ability to pay. It also means completing the launch of the All Access Committee, which I initiated, which is intended to provide more recreational activities for neurodiverse and differently abled kids and adults, to ensure ADA compliance in our township buildings and at all of our events, and to provide translations for key township materials into the primary languages of our immigrant communities, bringing more cultural competence to our offerings. A less tangible but more important part of my work involves listening to the many marginalized constituencies that are sometimes left out of crucial community conversations and trying to ensure that their concerns are represented in township committee discussions and decisions. One topic I look forward to discussing tonight in particular is the question of artificial turf, why I'm against it, and what Nancy and I are doing and will do to improve playing conditions with the right approach to a natural grass maintenance, right here starting into Hart Park and for all of Maplewood Fields, because it can be done. I encourage all of you to visit our campaign website when you have an opportunity to read more what we stand for and what we're working on. Adams and Craig from Maplewood.com, and I'm available to speak with anyone at any time, so please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from candidate Herman.
Thank you. Thank you to the Hilton Neighborhood Association for holding this forum, and thank you to everyone who came out tonight. I'm really excited to talk to you about who I am and why I'm running for the Maplewood Township Committee. I know we'll get to the issues during the question and answer section, so I want to use this time to tell you a little bit more about myself, Malia Herman, and why I'm hoping to earn your vote. I've lived in Maplewood for 10 years with my husband and our 2 kids and 2 dogs. Our kids were in preschool when we moved here, and now our oldest is going into Columbia. Time has sure flown. Since we've lived in Maplewood, I've been an active community volunteer and advocate. When there was a gun scare at our middle school, I got together with some of the residents to start the SOMA chapter of Moms Demand Action. I've been on the Maplewood Pool Committee, working with other members to make the pool more affordable and accessible, and it's a work in progress. The most rewarding thing that I've done is stand up for families who've disabled or neurodiverse children as a past president of CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee. As a special needs mom myself, I know firsthand what it's like to feel that your child isn't accepted or welcomed in all places. Non-structured events and those with sensory overload, they're hard, and I get it. Before moving to Maplewood, I worked as a congressional reporter in Washington, D.C. So I have to tell you, I'm more used to being on the other side of candidate debates and asking the questions. So if I'm a little nervous, that's why. It's a little out of my comfort zone. I want to tell you a little bit about growing up, because my family was not mainstream. With a white dad and a Mexican and American Indian mom, my parents were a mixed race couple at a time when that was not widely accepted, especially in the military. My dad was in the Marine Corps. So that's how I came to grow up in Hawaii. Not the tourist part of Hawaii with the hotels and but in the residential part with, a single-story home, 3 bedrooms, no air conditioning, still none. My dad was transferred there, and he stayed because the diversity in Hawaii gave him and my mom and my sisters, including one who was adopted from Korea, the opportunity to grow up in a place that where looking different wasn't a big deal. And I learned at an early age how to navigate insensitive questions and really embrace our differences as a family. Today in Maplewood, I'm really proud to be raising our children in an interfaith Jewish family, and I have found acceptance and belonging here in Maplewood that I cherish. I also learned at an early age the value of community service. Every year, our church group would travel to another church to help clean up, and my husband and I helped after Hurricane Katrina to rebuild. I share these details because they illustrate who I am as a person. When something needs done, even if I'm busy doing a million other things, I always say yes. And this is why I'm running for the Township Committee.
Thank you. And candidate Adams.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, and good evening, everybody. I'm grateful for this opportunity to be here tonight and to have my friend and colleague on the Township Committee, Jermaine Kripe, as my running mate. We work well together, and I value our partnership. For those who may be unfamiliar with my background, I've lived in town for 35 years and was a founder of College Hill Neighborhood Association and Springfield Avenue Partnership. And I've had the privilege of serving on the planning board since 2009 and on the Township Committee for almost 3 terms, with the additional honor of serving right now as your mayor. Over my 8 years of service, I've led on environmental initiatives, including pioneering a year-round gas-powered leaf blower ban and implementing regulations on single-use plastics, prioritizing tree replenishment on our streets and in our parks, planting hundreds of trees annually. And we prioritize transitioning township equipment and vehicles to electric while maintaining fiscal responsibility by doing that through attrition. Under my direction, our commitment to sustainability is incorporated in our road projects, one of which was recently recognized by Sustainable Jersey for the rain garden on 44th Street that helps control stormwater runoff. Our commitment to good environmental and fiscal practices extends to township recycling, where under my leadership, we've transitioned the township to dual stream recycling, resulting in over $100,000 in cost savings in the first year alone. I've also played a significant role in enhancing our community's recreational facilities, taking the lead for the support and construction of the regulation-sized basketball court in DeHart Park, and also the improvements to the tennis court, now also used for pickleball. Preserving Maplewood's rich heritage has also been another focus of mine through my service as liaison to the Memorial Park Conservancy and until this year on the Historic Preservation Commission. I've had the opportunity to help get many projects done, restoring our historic park and with HPC protecting our buildings, and now working on the demolition ordinance that we are expecting to pass in the next month. After my initiative in 2018, we've also established an annual recognition of Women's History Month, celebrating the contributions of women throughout history and spotlighting local women leaders, showing our children, all children, that women and girls can also be leaders. These accomplishments just scratch the surface of my work over the past 8 years. My governance is characterized by consistency, diligence, and integrity. While township committee meetings serve as a culmination of our efforts, the true essence of my work lies in the collaborative discussions and meticulous planning within our subcommittees and our department leaders and my colleagues on the township committee. So I'm grateful for this opportunity and look forward for your questions.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go to question number 1, and candidate Herman will be the first to respond. The question is, what are your thoughts about the changes in affordable housing legislation in the state? How do you propose that Maplewood should meet these new requirements? Candidate Herman.
Oh, here's my microphone. Okay. I think that these new requirements are important, and I think that it's important to make note of the fact that Maplewood has already been doing a lot in this area. As you know, for affordable housing, we already do have to put set-asides in our buildings, and Maplewood has done a really good job at this. And so I think that this legislation is one where Maplewood has already been a leader. Now, I know there's a lot of high-density buildings that have gone up in our town, some in Hilton, some across town, and these and other differentiated kinds of housing are really important for our town because it's important that we have a diversity of residents, from seniors to a diversity of racial, socioeconomic, residents being able to live in our housing. So we need to have all different kinds across the town. And I think it's important that when we look at affordable housing and setting aside these units, that we look at different kinds and not just in one area of town. But I think that this is definitely a good thing for the state, and it's a good thing for Maplewood, and it's a good thing that we're already leading on this area.
Okay, thank you.
Now is it Jermaine?
And we are now going to go to candidate Adams.
Oh, that's me. Okay. Thank you. Affordable housing, wow, it's, I'm really, really proud of the work we've done on that in Maplewood. Since I've been serving on the planning board, we have deliberately and with thought required applicants on the planning board level to provide affordable housing in their units and on site, not off site for the most part. I think there's one that was off site, and that pays into a fund we have to help people stay in their homes with affordable housing. We have a fund that helps people who want to stay in their home but can't afford to maintain it necessarily to do so by borrowing and being able to use that fund to help them stay and keep their homes up. Also, we just went on a tour yesterday over on Tiffany Place, where the owner of Cornbread, who has done a lot of development, she built a couple of houses, and I was happy to hear her say, we took your advice and we made them look different, and we made them thoughtful with a lot of pervious surface, not impervious surface, as well as enough room for people to live in, and there's a good chance that the township itself will help invest in those. But also, what I'm really proud of with Maplewood is that we have not run away from this obligation. We have committed to it, we stand by it, whereas some of our neighboring communities are now going to be hit really hard with what is their court obligation, and they've been selling off those Mount Laurel obligations for years, and now they have no choice but to build them. And they're catching a lot of stuff for that too in Summit, where I work, and in Milburn, as everybody knows. So it's important, and it's the right thing to do, and I think people really need to stop thinking of affordable housing as like Section 8 or, you know, the projects or something, because it's not what it is. It's really expensive to live in New Jersey, and we need to let it be happening here. Sorry, I just saw my time's up.
Okay. Candidate Craig.
I have the cookies mic. As Mayor Adams was saying, yesterday we had an opportunity to visit the Sierra House builds that were just done over on Tiffany Place, and I will tell you right now, they don't look like Section 8. The lady who runs Cornbread has done a brilliant job with her team to not only provide housing that looks like it belongs in Maplewood, but that it is being offered to people who normally probably wouldn't be given houses that have marble countertops and floors, subway tile in the bathroom, and open green spaces with garage, Energy Star appliances. There is such a great vibe coming from that, and I am so happy that the township has supported her in this endeavor, and that we're going to continue to do that. As Mayor Anderson has mentioned earlier, as well as Ms. Herman, the idea around affordable housing is something that is unprecedented in this city. The fact that we didn't shy away from it makes me proud to be a member of this community, because there are different economic groups that come through here, but sometimes people's situations change. You may come here with a great income and your industry crashes like we found in 2019. There were plenty of people that struggled to maintain their homes on all parts of Maplewood. So having opportunities for folks to be able to maybe move into something smaller or something more affordable needs to be maintained, and it needs to be encouraged. 80,000 units, that's what the state requirement is for the state of New Jersey for us to meet the mandate for 2020. 27, I believe they're starting it. And yes, I'm glad that we have already jumped in and said from the beginning that we're gonna make space available for all people to be able to live in Maplewood. And it's not just apartments. Heck, walking through it yesterday, I wanted to sell my house. They're so gorgeous, and move into one of those, but it's not for me. It's for people who need a chance to get into this excellent community that we call home. Affordable housing does not equate to Section 8. It does not mean crime, which was the excuse given by many of our neighbors. The fact that there might be more people who don't look like you there is not something to be afraid of. If anything, that's an opportunity to grow and expand. And with many of the things that we have in our community, there are going to be some discomfort. There are going to be some things that we're going to have to get comfortable with. But I love that idea of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's what community is. Thank you.
Question number 2. Several members of the Hilton Neighborhood Association are very concerned about the implementation of high-density housing development. This affects the Hilton neighborhood area disproportionately. How will you address the environmental impact as well as the increased traffic issues that accompany high-density development? And Candidate Adams, you will be going first.
Thank you, Suzanne. That's an interesting question coming right at the heels of affordable housing, but it is. I am personally not in favor of any more development in the Hilton neighborhood, other than for either special needs or age restricted for multifamily homes. Springfield Avenue, I think, is almost there. We've needed, when we started the partnership, it was a very difficult street to redevelop, and that's why it's taken like 30 years of work for us to do it. But the housing available there was non-existent on the street. And since my profession is downtown revitalization, I know how important it is to have a 24/7 customer base. So I think it's important, and the businesses that are coming there now have been happy that there's so much housing coming on the street, and it's bringing people, and it's allowing us to provide affordable housing. So I think there might be a little more there. I too am very concerned, however, with the traffic. Not just the traffic, but the inability that we will have for expanding the infrastructure with regard to roads, especially on Valley Street. I'm really concerned about all the units going up that haven't even opened yet in South Orange in particular, and what that's going to do for traffic backups. And what that does is make us work on other things we work on all the time, such as pedestrian safety, and that's because the traffic, I know from firsthand experience, you get off of Valley Street as soon as you are able, and then you go through the neighborhoods, and so it becomes a problem. So, but I think I think we're almost built out, honestly. So I don't think there's that much more room for it in town.
Great. Moving to candidate Cripe.
Thank you. A lot of the time that we spend in township conversations deals with not only making it affordable to live in Maplewood or opportunities for businesses to thrive, but ways in which we can get Maplewood to get out of Maplewood, making sure that they get out of their homes, making sure they know that new businesses are happening. And so there have been a lot of initiatives to make traffic calming. We've had studies done. We're in the process of doing a major construction build on Springfield Avenue through grants from Essex County and the state for a rebuild that's going to create bump outs and crosswalks, bike paths. There's going to be so many new things that are going to make Maplewood more pedestrian friendly. And in many ways, that will help a lot with the increased population that will be on the avenue. The folks that will be in town hopefully will be encouraged by having businesses invited to come, grocers that are within walking distance so you don't have to take your car, that you can bike to, that you can walk to, restaurants that make it available for you to sit outside and enjoy with the streeteries, being a part of a community and watching Maplewood go by as you enjoy your meal. We're doing bike pathways. There's serious discussions happening, not only in code, but in the township committee about some serious sacrifices that may be happening along Parker and may be happening along Prospect in regards to maybe taking away some of the parking to make space for bikes so people can get out and ride. On our days that we have great weather, this town is beautiful and it's absolutely walkable. When my daughter was very young, I used to actually take my stroller and walk to South Orange every single morning of the week so that I could have a coffee clutch at the Dancing Goat. I don't know if anybody remembers the Dancing Goat, but that's also where I met Karen. And I used to walk that from Jacoby Street several miles every single day. But I was able to do that because the streets were safer. We just got to work on that.
Thank you. Thanks for this question. So yeah, there has been a lot of high density buildings in our town, hasn't there? I hear your concerns. I really do. And I agree. We need to, maybe take a pause on the high density buildings that are going up. I want to, make sure and make note of the fact that there are high density buildings going up in some other parts of town, like Mayor Nancy mentioned on Valley, and then there's on Baker Street and by the pool. But it does feel like there's a lot that are going up in Hilton, and it needs to be spread out around the town. We need to look at other areas where we can have that. I think there's a real need for differentiated housing here in Maplewood, as I mentioned before. So, I think that there is a place for these high density buildings. But I believe that when we do these, we also have to talk to the community, and we need to hear their needs and their concerns. And we really have to take them seriously. And I have concerns as well about traffic and congestion. I have concerns about parking. I have concerns about our overtaxed infrastructure, such as sewers and stormwater. I have concerns about safety in our neighborhoods, and especially around our schools, like our kids walking to school. I can't tell you how many times I hear about a near miss accident near our schools. And I like the fact that there's now a 4-way stop sign at right near Tuscan School. And there was some barriers put in near the Walgreens and Seth Boyden. These are good measures to help with that safety. But I think we can do some more things, making sure that the streets near the schools are one way. MMS and Tuscan does this, but I think Seth Boyden was doing it for a while. So that's important. So as far as Hilton and the Lightning Brook neighborhoods are concerned, I want to make sure I stick this in here that I obviously support the South Essex Fire Department keeping its House 2 department fully open and staffed, especially with these new these new high-density developments, We need to have fire, EMS, and rescue services nearby. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, question number 3. With respect to the Township Committee's relationship with the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education, what do you feel is the appropriate means to express concerns or share ideas regarding the school district through towns, need my glasses, through both towns, through the Board of School Estimate? How important is transparency in the process? And our first candidate to go will be candidate Craig.
Transparency is indispensable. And a lot of the conversations that were held in regards to our last Board of School Estimate vote dealt a lot with transparency and the fact that there wasn't enough. As a steward of the finances of this community, it is our obligation to make sure that the money that we actually offer up to the school board is spent in a responsible way. We asked multiple times for details and were denied those details by various members of the administration as well as members of the school board itself. And for those very reasons, we were unable to come to a consensus to vote for the additional funding. Yes, I'm not a fan of artificial turf, but had they answered the questions that we asked for months prior, there would have been a deeper conversation. And the fact that it got spun the way it got spun, it was irresponsible, and it was blame shifting. However, we do have a relationship, and we have to work together. So our goal really is to make sure that we continue the conversations. Hey, you know what, this last one did not work out, and here are the reasons why. Can we do better? Can we talk? Can we answer each other's questions? And can we support you in any way? If you're feeling like you're not getting your voice heard, show up to the meetings. Show up to all of the meetings. They've announced them publicly. They put them on the TV channel, and they also offer them up on Facebook. So please, go to the meetings, ask the questions, write the letters, keep asking questions until you get your answer. And if you don't get your answer, elevate it to the person above them until you can. My hope is our next superintendent of schools comes in with an energy and an eagerness to want to be a part of this community. Not just because of the position that we have in the town, but because this town is so engaged. I love hearing the voices, even the angry ones, because that means that you care. Keep caring.
And candidate Hyman is second.
Thank you for that question. Look, as a reporter, I believe transparency is really important. I also, believe that when we have an issue that's been on the table for a while and there's been a meeting that's been postponed multiple times, that there is an obligation and an opportunity to get the information that you need and to get the questions answered. And I think a lot of the questions that were outstanding in the last meeting were able to be answered and had been answered. So I'm going to speak straight here that I was disappointed in the meeting, in the last BOES meeting and in the vote. Clearly the BOES needs to have more oversight of the long-range facilities plan and its implementation and our district spending, clearly. But when we're talking about like they approved the entire plan and stripped out the one part of the plan that had to do with the fields. And this is an area in our community that we have a big need. We have a very, very historically unmet need for our children in terms of the fields that they can play on. And this is something that needs to be solved. And I believe that this was an opportunity for our community to come together, for our leaders to stand up and say, this is important for the students. This was approved by the school district 3 times. Both of the elected bodies in Maplewood and South Orange supported this proposal in its entirety. And I feel very strongly that, we need to be listening to the people who are at the center of this issue, and that's the students, the kids who are playing. And I feel like their voices weren't heard, and I think that we have to find a balance as a community. We need to find a balance to make this work.
Yeah, because I didn't think it was about artificial turf, so I just wanted.
With respect to the Township Committee's relationship with the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education, what do you feel is the appropriate means to express concerns or share ideas regarding the school district through both towns, through the Board of School Estimate? How important is transparency in the process?
Thank you. So I think the biggest frustration that we have as probably both towns' governing bodies is the lack of communication by the school district and the lack of information when asked for, as Deputy Mayor said. The Board of School Estimate is legally bound to be called in when there's requests for funding, to approve funding for projects that the district wants to do. There's a lack of transparency on the information we get from them. I've said before, when we do our municipal budget, we have several hearings. We go line by line, we ask questions about everything. We don't get anywhere near that when we're asked for more money for really what's 57 to 60% of the property tax levy in this town. So I think it's not just now, it's been going on for years. And recently we just literally had to beg, and Committeewoman Engel worked really hard on this for a year, and several of us in the community worked hard on it for the last 20 years to try to get the Greenway continued from South Orange through school district property. And we had negotiated, I actually brought up the idea when we were in the developer's agreement for 7 West Parker to how about you do something to connect your residents to the train station safely, because they have to go through the parking lot at the Board of Ed, right? Board of Ed's parking lot. And what happened was that became the agreement, the community give back in that developer agreement. And it took all this time and the persistence of Committeewoman Engel in this case for this last year to even get them to accept a $100,000 gift. And I don't know, I would never turn down a $100,000 gift for the township, I'll tell you that. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Okay, question 4. In recent years, the Township Committee passed resolutions about national and international issues. What are your thoughts regarding the Township Committee engaging in these activities? And our first speaker will be candidate Herman.
It's me again. No. Wait, maybe, can you repeat it?
Sure, I can.
That was my fault.
Okay, no problem. In recent years, the Township Committee passed resolutions about national and international issues. What are your thoughts regarding the Township Committee engaging in these activities?
Okay, thank you for repeating it.
No problem.
So I think that sometimes, it feels in Maplewood like we're living in a bubble, okay? But we're not. We're part of a national stage. We're part of an international stage. We're living in a global society and a global economy. What we do here matters in the world, and it also matters to us here at home. We're a community with lots of opinions, strong opinions, and lots of very strongly held values. So when there's an issue where there's community consensus and the issue gets at our core values, yeah, I think it's appropriate, necessary to take a stand. And I'm proud that our leaders here in Maplewood have taken a stand on national and international issues in the past. For example, they've taken stands on women's rights, LGBTQ equality, Black Lives Matter, and gun control, which I'm particularly proud of because that was one of the things I pushed for as a Moms to Men Action volunteer. Our town has also taken a stand for Ukraine following the Russian invasion and for Israel following the devastating October 7 attack by Hamas. And this is something that I want to speak a little on briefly because what we're seeing in the Middle East is heartbreaking. It's a humanitarian crisis and one that, as a mom, is so hard to watch. What's happening to the Palestinian people in Gaza, aid workers, mothers, children. At the same time, I hear the anguish of my Jewish community over the hostages who 6 months later have not been released, the continuing attacks, the anti-Semitism. I hear it from my kids in school. So certainly, I'm hoping for peace. I'm hoping for a resolution to this awful, awful war. And I'm hoping even more that here in Maplewood, we can find a way to make peace within our own community. We're neighbors.
10 seconds.
Our kids go to school together. Here's where I go back to, so this is a big issue that I have on my platform, is that we need to have more community conversations. Let's stand together, not separately, and let's find a way to find a solution.
Who's leaning on the legs?
There we go. We're back.
We're back.
All right, so now we are to candidate Adams.
Thank you. It's funny that this question never really came up in my experience in the last years on the township committee because previously, I guess what I'm saying, it's never come up that should we be opining on national or international affairs or issues around the world? Should we be making statements, making resolutions, doing any of that? And I think while it should not be our prime focus, I think it's our right to speak out against Donald Trump's actions over the last few years, or this, that, and the other thing. And the most recent one, though, we've been getting pushback for speaking out because it's an international thing. So I find that interesting. I don't think we should dwell on it. I think we have a lot of business to do in our township committee meetings. Those are our business meetings. That's when we need to get things done. But that's also when the opportunity exists for the public to speak. And we've had to address that recently with the obvious crisis in the Middle East. But the biggest thing, I think, and the most important statement we made was a statement I put out on behalf of the Township Committee a month ago and reiterated Tuesday night about the respectfulness that is required of our residents and the feelings of people who are different than they are or who have different feelings about the conflict in particular right now, and to not use phrases that are knowingly hurtful to people who are on the other side of the issue, regardless of which side you're on. But we can't, there's a First Amendment's fairly strong, so we can't really do anything other than make sure that our community members feel as safe as we can make them feel, make sure they feel safe. And so when there's protests, we've been putting police on site to make sure that that safety is ensured and that people feel safe in their own town. But yeah, I don't think we need to opine on everything, but we can make a statement. I think that's fine.
Thank you.
One of the benchmarks of our Constitution affords every American the freedom to speak out for or against government policies at home and abroad. To speak out against a war everywhere or anywhere on the globe is not a statement against one group or another. It's a statement in support of saving lives. We've consistently taken humanitarian position condemning Hamas, the terrorist attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, and for calling for peace between the Israeli government and Hamas in the Middle East. We've spoken up in support of our various constituents in the Middle East. We've spoken about spaces in China. We've spoken out about the Central Eastern Europe. We've spoken out on many different things. So we've repeatedly asked for peace. That's what we've been asking for in our community, but we've been asking for those in our community as well. These global issues put a strain on everyone. But the strength of this town means that we can go beyond this. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can be in civil discourse. That's why it's called civil discourse. We can do this, but we have to be an example of what living in harmony together is in the world. And so as a township committee, we've endorsed proclamations for condemning anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. We've condemned Hamas in almost every single statement, like the first lines. We've called for the return of the hostages. I'm so sorry and so tired of seeing another day go by with these folks not returned to their homes. We've called for the resolution on October 17th. We've had multiple gatherings. We've gone in support of those things. Maplewood is a part of the world. And so for us to speak out as members of the Township Committee, by our constituents who come to us with tears in their eyes, is us doing our job of governing. So we will speak out. We'll continue to speak out, so long as our constituents ask it of us. Thank you.
In the past several years, bond ordinances have been passed by the Township Committee to fund artificial turf fields at DeHart Park. Sorry, we're doing a little bit of a repeat here. Only to be overturned by referendum. Please share your views about this. It's a little different, a shade different, nuanced. Other than turf fields, what is your solution to our sports field dilemma? And we will begin with candidate Adams first.
Thank you, Suzanne. Well, as the one member of the Township Committee who voted against the referendum for the bond for artificial turf in DeHart Park, it's pretty obvious where I stand on it. First and foremost, I think it's fiscally irresponsible. The artificial turf does not last more than 8 to 12 years is the longest, but generally it's between 8 and 10 years. And then it has to be replaced. And while the first replacement doesn't cost that much, the second replacement requires replacing a lot more of all the PFAS plastics and ground up tires, whatever. I just think it's also environmentally unconscionable. But we are looking at ways to make our grass fields work better, and we've been working on that. Our engineer has submitted a grant application for a $100,000 grant to redesign DeHart Field and rebuild it. And then I will, not happily, but I will vote in favor of bonding for that improvement. And then maintaining it. We were on a call with Glen Ridge the other day, learning from them as how they maintain their natural grass for playing surfaces. And the reality is we have to look at usage. So he made a point that our engineer thought was, how could he say that? But I thought he's absolutely right. The point that man made was that years ago, girls and women didn't play all these sports. And I know that firsthand as an athlete, that we didn't have softball, and I was a shortstop and played softball for 35 years. We didn't have it. We had like 3 choices in school, right? So there is more use because more children, both sexes or all sexes, are playing. And we need to provide what we can, we can't provide it all. We can't provide it all. It's impossible.
And now we'll go to candidate Cripe.
There's no doubt in my mind that this community needs more fields. But unfortunately, Maplewood doesn't have any more land. Them's the regs. However, there are conversations being held currently to discuss ways in which taking some of our hard spaces and turning them into fields. We do need more space. There's no doubt in my mind that is absolutely necessary for our children and for our own recreation needs as adults. But some of the places that we're looking at and considering, we have to remember also that these areas, if they were great grounds, they'd have a house on them. So our obligation to maintain these fields also needs to be responsible with the stormwater runoff and with drainage and dealing with the things that are going to end up in our waterways eventually. PFASs are not a toy, they're not a joke. They've passed mandates recently in the United States federally saying these are the limits and levels that need to be available in our water. The fact that we have to even measure poison in our water and have a standard is scary and also confusing to me as a place that claims to be some place that is environmentally responsible. I mean, there's a tree in our name. We're Maplewood. How could we possibly have plastic on our fields? Crumb rubber running into our drains. Oh, sorry about that. And it also is fiscally irresponsible. It is less expensive, not only for maintenance, but also installation if it's done properly. And as Mayor Adams said, we need to hire people. We need to train our DPW staff on how to maintain these things. But the referendum spoke for itself. It failed twice in this town because the town doesn't want it. There's certain people in the town that want it, but the town as a whole does not want it. That's a whole. And as long as the town says that where they stand, I will stand up for them and speak out against it.
So thank you for this question. First of all, I want to make it absolutely clear that I am not running to turf to Hart Park. That was a decision that was made a few years ago. The community spoke out. This is a green space here and it's important, so I want to make that very clear. But I do want to push back on a couple of things. Studies have shown that in the long run, turf fields can actually be less expensive because they can be used all year. They can be multi-sport fields. When you're looking at the differences, the grass is just not able to fully sustain the need that we have in this community. We have more families with young kids who want to play sports. We're talking about softball, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse. There's so many sports out there, and I'm glad that women are able to play more of these sports. That's wonderful, and it's not something new. It's the reality of what we're living, the community that we're living in today. Studies have also shown that being outside, being on sports teams is so important for our kids' mental health, and we need to be able to provide for our kids and to handle this need. If you drive around Maplewood on a beautiful day following 1 or 2 days of rain, it's pretty stark when you look at some of the fields that are grass and they're covered in mud and pooled water, standing water. And then you go up to Underhill and you see families, you see teams, you see practices happening, you see a lot of kids out and about. And I gotta be honest, that's what we need more of in this community. We need more people outside enjoying that. So I think that we need to find a way to have another field like Underhill in our community. That's the only way that we can sustain the need of our kids playing sports. Thank you.
Okay, question number 6. Volunteerism appears to be down in our community. As this has always been a strength for Maplewood, we are feeling the effects of this downturn. Recognizing that Maplewood recently held an afternoon volunteer fair, what other means do you suggest that would encourage new volunteers to become active in our community? And Candidate Craik, you're first for this question, please.
Although I was raised with the idea of service as a part of not only my religious background and upbringing, but my familial one. The one thing that has always been intrinsic to me in volunteerism is feeling connected. Feeling like the group that you're working with has shared values with you. And to find that, you have to go out and get it. So for volunteerism in this township, people have to feel like their voices are heard, like what their concerns are matter. And for us to maintain that or try to rebuild it, it's gonna require a personal touch. We've had a couple of committees in the recent months that have started to get a lot of applicants in it, but it has been the slog. Luckily, that's what I do for a living. I love finding the sweet spot for people in volunteerism in my community. And so I personally ask, and that's what it's gonna take. It's gonna take all of us, the members who are already volunteering and the people who are governing, asking individuals when they hear about someone who does something great or is interested in seeing changes. If they show up at a township committee meeting and express a concern and there's a committee that's responsible for that, taking the time to go to that individual and say, hey, you know what, thank you for sharing your questions and concerns with us. And have you considered being a part of this community to find the solutions to the problems that you're having? We need to be more proactive. We can't wait for people to come to us. We have to go to them. And to go to them with kindness and respect and information so that they know that what they're doing matters is very important. So to increase volunteerism in this town, I've been making a lot of phone calls. I've been sending a lot of emails. I've talked to a lot of people. And I'm gonna continue to do that.
10 seconds.
And my plan is, after this phase of my life and career is over with, I still plan on volunteering as a member of community committees in this town. I did it
That's your
before,
time.
and I'm gonna continue to do it. And I'm gonna drag as many of you with me as I can in the process.
Senator Herman, you're up next.
It is me. So the way I got involved in Maplewood is by volunteering. I think it started off when the kids were in school. It actually started when my daughter was in kindergarten, and they needed another Girl Scout leader. And so I was like, sure, how hard can it be? 24 kindergartners, 3 leaders. It was quite interesting, but a lot of fun, and I stayed with it for many years. So I think I, like many other, working moms, when you get asked if you're going to volunteer or do something, it's hard because it's like we already have a million things on our plate. It's hard to find time for one more thing. I even have a cup. So I have a cup, a mug that a friend gave me that says no more volunteering, but I ignore it. I keep saying yes. And I think that I'm not unusual in this town. So, I have to gently push back on the idea that there aren't as many volunteers in our town because actually I think a lot of people in our town are doing amazing things. I'm constantly impressed by the things that my neighbors are doing. I have one friend who started volunteering, she organized volunteering for men, for kids to be able to do that on the weekends. The group that got together and started Soma Shares, they've done a lot of amazing things in our schools and for our community. But on the other hand, being a part of CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, and Girl Scouts, I know finding people to step up can also be hard. It's hard to get a variety of people stepping up, to get different, ethnicities represented, to get different ages represented, and I think it's important that we make the ask, that we directly ask people, will you do this?
10
Will
seconds.
you step up? And I think the more we ask, the more we'll find that people want to step up and they want to do something to help their community, because once you do,
Time.
it feels really good.
Candidate Adams.
Thank you. I agree with you. I didn't know we were that bad on our volunteers, but maybe there's an observation I don't know about. But no, we have a process right now where people, if they're interested, can go on our website and sign up. And then when we have openings on existing committees, and we have a ton of them, then we put people on them. And we discuss them and we approve them and they start working. I think the real key, though, has to be, I think our schools need to start having mandatory community service through the schools, especially the high school, as kids get older, to get them, I mean, some do. I know that, I feel like it's not done in Columbia High School, and it ought to be, that every student needs to give back, needs to do either a volunteer project or volunteer for an organization or for, you know, whatever. I'll let them figure it out, but I think it needs to start with the kids so that they're used to volunteering and that they get into the habit of volunteering and they see the value in it. And they get off their phones and off their devices and they go and help other people. So I think that would be the best way to start cultivating our kids through the schools. I mean, some of them do, but certainly not all of them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, question number 7. Maplewood is a unique and wonderful place to live. Can we give Maplewood a round of applause? I want to say we love Maplewood. I think we all do. So now we'd like to hear from the 3 candidates. What does Maplewood mean to you? Maybe you want to also touch upon what our greatest challenge might be, but what does Maplewood mean to you? And our first speaker will be candidate Herman.
Again, I feel like I'm always the first.
No.
So thank you. Yeah, Maplewood is amazing. Can we give it another round of applause? You know, my family has loved living here. When we moved here, you know, we pulled up, we drove up from Washington, D.C., and we pulled up, and there was a flyer through our door inviting us to a party across the street. And so from the very first second that we came to Maplewood, we felt welcomed. We met so many people at this neighborhood party, and you know, I think that's one of the amazing things about Maplewood is that, you know, each community has their little Facebook group, and they have, you know, they have their neighborhood parties. You know, if I need an egg to make something in the kitchen, you know, I go to that group and I got an egg coming over. You know, this is a really great community, and you know, I think that a lot of times, you know, maybe it gets disparaged here and there, but you know, when it comes down to it, you know, we all do get together, you know, when there are needs, and we rally around each other. And you know, we live right near Maplewood Memorial Park, and one of my favorite things is hearing the voices of the children and hearing things that are going on in the park. It feels like when there's Maple Woodstock, we've got like a band in our next room. You know, but I love the opportunities here. I love, you know, I love seeing all this new development that's happening in Newark Way with Arturo's being there and Porta Rosa, and you know, there's a brewery coming in that's very exciting. And I love all these different parts of our town. You know, I think there's so many unique areas. I love going shopping up on Restaurant Row. I'm very, you know, Milk Money. I used to go there for my kids' clothes. And I love all of these different parts of our town. And I think if there was a pressing issue facing us, you know, I would say...
Time.
We'll let you finish.
Good time.
I would say it's safety. And I'll have more about this in my platform, because I think there's safety in different areas in our town regarding the safety of our children walking to school and the safety on roads. So I will be sure to expand on that.
Thank you so much. Candidate Adams.
What do I like about Maplewood? Or what do I love about it? I don't know, I feel like I love so much about it, but you know, it's a lot, especially when you're serving, it's a lot. So right now I'm having like basically 2 full-time jobs. And just finishing 2.5 weeks of jury duty to just add to the fun. I do like Maplewood definitely better than the courthouse in Newark, but I love the, it's cliche, but I love the diversity. I love being able to walk around town and see people who are unlike myself. I think it's boring when I go to some places and everybody's the same. It's really boring. The other part of Maplewood that I like is that there's a lot of opinions. Like, that's why it's hard for me to believe that people aren't volunteering, because we sure hear from a lot of people a lot. So there are a lot of opinions, but you know, you can go to a restaurant or pub or whatever in town and just start talking, and you're not talking about like pleasantries and stuff. You start, like really having an interesting conversation. I think that's because we all come from different places. We're a highly educated and involved community, understanding politics and understanding like issues and really being passionate about our opinions. And I guess that sort of feels like the Italian family I grew up in. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But the walkability of it is, I've probably walked thousands of miles in this town over the years, and it's why I don't like, the suburban sprawl. I like being here where we can get whatever we want within a short distance, and also just enjoy our town, enjoy taking a walk. And now we don't have to listen to leaf blowers when we do it. So that's another reason I like it.
And Candidate Craig.
Thank you. When my husband and I were driving around and looking at houses back in 2003, I'm aging myself, we settled on Jacoby Street because of the football boys. I only got to know 2 or 3 of their names, but there were 2 groups of kids that would play on Jacoby Street, one near our house and one at the other end. And it was like the Wayne's World thing. Car, and they get out of the way. And so when Charles, our realtor, brought us there, I saw that, and I'm like, this is a community. Coming from Park Slope, coming from the Upper West Side, we saw a lot of people in the community, but we didn't see them in the community, like playing in the streets and talking to their neighbors and shoveling their driveways on snow days when somebody's pregnant and they can't get out there and do that. I've seen all of that on my little tiny street in Lightning Brook. And I hear stories like that about all parts of Maplewood, that this is an actual community that cares about their neighbors, that actually knows their neighbors. I couldn't name 2 people in our building on 15th Street when we lived in Brooklyn, but I know almost everybody on Jacoby Street, and they know me. And we've taken the time to talk to each other, even if it's just when we're walking our dogs. So what I love about Maplewood is the potential to be, and I'm getting into my religion thing here, so just hang with me. I am a firm believer in the practices and principles of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And one of the things that he pressed and stressed is the dream of beloved community. And that beloved community is something that can happen in Maplewood. I totally believe that because we're almost there, guys. We ask the questions. We challenge each other. We tick each other off. But we listen for the most part, even if we don't agree. We could do better in some cases of being agreeable, but for the most part, we're willing to put the energy and effort in. So I love Maplewood because Maplewood cares. That's what I love about Maplewood.
To allow each of the candidates closing remarks that will pull together what they would like to present to us, the community, what they'd like to leave us with. Upon completion, we have some snacks in the back, and what we like, because that's what Hilton neighborhood likes, we like people to hang around, talk to the candidates, talk to one another, find ways to speak, communicate, because that's what creates the bonds of community. So with that, I would like to begin for closing remarks. And Candidate Adams, you will have 3 minutes. Each of you will have 3 minutes to have closing remarks.
Do you have a volunteer form for everybody in the back?
We actually
There's a sign-in form.
We have the sign-in form. Make sure you're signed in, and maybe we'll contact you. And we also have membership forms. You don't have to live in Hilton to be a member of Hilton. So feel free to join. We love new members. Okay. So with that.
That's it. You're welcome for the pitch.
Thank you.
So I just briefly want to thank Suzanne. Thank you for moderating. Thanks to Mary Boehner for Facebook Living and for organizing, and for the Hilton Neighborhood Association for hosting us, and to everyone who came out. It's a great turnout. I've been on this thing before, and this is a lot of people. So thank you all for taking the time to come out and get to know us all a little bit, because that's taking part in our democratic process, right? So I really appreciate that. I was never an activist before I moved to Maplewood. I was opinionated, as you might not be surprised to hear. Right, Frank? He's grinning at me. I was opinionated, but other than letters to the editor on gun control, and I never really did anything in the community in Rochester, New York, other than have babies and do public theater between pregnancies. But in the 35 years I've lived in my home here, raising 5 kids, well, 3 and then 2, with 1 bathroom, I might add. I've led in advocating for change and attention. First, to restarting theater at Tuscan School after the stage had been dark for 30 years. And then from starting the movement to improve Springfield Avenue all those years ago by going up every Saturday morning with a couple neighbors of mine and cleaning graffiti and picking up garbage. And then to creating the College Hill Neighborhood Association, to serving on the planning board, and then running ultimately for township committee. My activism and community service were never done with the intention of becoming an elected official or mayor, but instead for the benefit of the residents of Maplewood, with the goal of addressing issues that affect our quality of life here for all of Maplewood, for all of our residents in all areas of the town. My extensive experience spanning nearly 3 decades in downtown management, revitalization, and redevelopment, and working with and within municipal government, with municipal department heads and town employees, makes me uniquely qualified for the role I've taken on as a member of the governing body. This experience greatly informs my approach to governance and to policy making. My love of this town drives me to continue to serve. I'm really, really proud of a lot of my accomplishments since I've been on the township committee and before. And I'm happy to be running along with Deputy Mayor Kripe so that we can continue our collaboration and our achievements on the township committee. And I ask for your vote for us on June 4th. Thank you.
You think after being here for an hour, I know what order it is. Thank you again so much for taking the time out of your evenings to offer us these questions and listen to our answers. Thank you, Suzanne and Mary and Michael and everyone in the Hilton Neighborhood Association. Mr. Wise for getting this room set up, and just thank you all for being a part of it. I definitely want to thank my family, my husband Rick and my daughter Alice, for putting up with the crazy nights and the times when I sit down with a gin and tonic and just kvetch for 45 minutes after a TC meeting. They make it worthwhile, creating a space for us to be who we are together. In times when we're told that lie, that our individual thriving requires someone else's suffering, love is the promise of beloved community. I'm going to say it again. Love is the promise of beloved community, where all of us are whole and valued, worthy. It's more than a slogan. It's a call to moral clarity and collective action. It's a bold invitation to say, be who we say we are. Today, as the world around us continues to grapple with crises fueled by hatred and indifference, we have the moral mandate to embody the principles of justice and compassion in everything that we do. So together, we can be the architects of a more just and equitable future. And now is the time for us to embody that promise of our ancestors. And I believe we're ready. If you put your trust in me and I'm reelected, I pledge to stay true to my values and to continue the work that I've started or been a part of, which means showing right here at the Hart Field that we can create and maintain fully playable grass fields, in completing the inclusive playground over at Maple Crest Park, in making the All Access Committee effort a well-utilized township resource, not just something that we put out because somebody said we needed to have one. Doing the outreach to ensure that every child who needs swim lessons gets them, and that memberships for our community utility pool reflect our community density. The fact that we have portions of our town that are closest to the pool with the least number of memberships is something to be ashamed of. We can do better. Making sure that our modest successes in community policing are secured and broadened. We have empowered our police department to actually be community police officers, getting out there, shaking hands, introducing themselves to children so that the fear of interacting with a law enforcement officer is not there or is lessened by them basically becoming members of our community, not just our employees. By providing support with the Board of Education and building a true partnership with the
10
next
seconds.
superintendent. I urge you all to vote in this year's primary on June the 4th. If you're not registered to vote, please do so by May 14th because that's the deadline.
Time.
And June 4th happens to also be my wedding anniversary, so tossing us something in the hat for us. We can be progressive enclave that we can claim to be by our actions and our words. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it again.
Last but not least, candidate Herman.
Thank you. So once again, I want to thank the Hilton Neighborhood Association for holding this forum, and I want to thank everyone that came out tonight. You know, it's hard to find, the time in our busy lives, and this is definitely a packed room, so thank you. This is what democracy is all about, and I just really appreciate, everybody being here. What we did tonight is we had a conversation. I think we had a really thoughtful and important conversation about the future of our town, which clearly all of us in this room love. I'm proud to be sitting here with two women who are also community volunteers, and I'm proud that our town has a female mayor and a female majority on the township committee. And I want to make it clear that there are 2 seats available, and I'm running for one of them. I'm running to offer voters a choice, and more importantly, as I've told both of my opponents, I'm running because I truly want to serve. I want to serve this community that I love. And I think that I've shown through my volunteer work that I can do that, and I have a perspective that isn't often heard in public office. So when we moved to Maplewood, I was coming off a decade of being a political reporter, and I quickly became involved in the local political races here, and in the local groups like CPAC and the pool and Moms Men Action. And I agree, we need a community pool that is a community pool for the entire community and has lessons for all ages and abilities. And with this background, I don't think it's a stretch that I would someday want to run for office. When is a good time? I thought maybe when my kids are grown, I could run. I would certainly have more time, that's for sure. But how could I be the voice if I waited? How could I be the voice for families who have young kids in school? How could I be the voice for neurodiversity children and families who are raising them? Because it's hard. As other special needs moms will attest, there's never a really good time to take on a new project or do something because you never know what the next day is going to bring. But I haven't let that stop me from running marathons, like actual marathons, or from running for office. So I believe strongly that knowing the challenges of families and children with special needs is a perspective that I would bring to the Township Committee, and it's an important one. So this is who I am, Malia Herman, and I ask for your vote on June 4th. And I hope that you've learned more about me tonight, and if you have more questions, I want to answer them because I want to listen. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear your needs, your ideas, and your concerns. So email me. I'm at maliafrommaplewood@gmail.com, and I invite you to reach out because I want to listen. Thank you.
On behalf of the Hilton Neighborhood Association, first and foremost, we want to say thank you to the 3 candidates who are so willing to want to serve our community. So let's give them a round of applause. As a person who had someone in their life for many years, politically active, it is truly love, it is truly dedication, it is truly your significant others, your children, your partners, that really give up so that you can serve. And when that service happens, it's really the true look of love for the community. So we're very lucky, and the best of luck to all three. And thank you everyone for coming. Please have some snacks with us, have some time to talk to the candidates and talk to each other. Thank you so much for coming.